So there's my AT gun knocking out the Chaffee down, I say in the chat, and you see how we're communicating. Normally we're on Ventrilo, but of course not everyone has Ventrilo. You can't set up Ventrilo with public people, but even if you're the only one typing, like my ally, he's communicative, but he doesn't type a whole lot. But you see I'm typing quite a bit to him, and communicating is very important. Even if you just use N to ping the minimap, you hover your mouse over something and hit N, and it'll add a little arrow that people can see. It's nice to keep your ally apprised of what's going on, especially on a small map like this or on a 2v2 where you're probably fighting together a lot. Because if you know what's going on, you're going to do a lot better in Men of War if you have intelligence related to what's happening. So just try and be aware of what's going on. In some bigger things like a 3v3, a 4v4, or 5v5 or something, you really don't have to like watch what your ally is doing all the time. But you don't want to tank driving over from the left-hand side of the map and just like killing all your stuff because you didn't see it coming. And so now I fire an armor-piercing shell into there because I did not have HE loaded and I didn't want to wait for HE to load. But it didn't kill the guy, so then I load HE and fire. Kaboom. Okay, well, that took care of that tree, so that's good. Nobody likes trees. If people like trees, we wouldn't turn them into paper and then eat them. Maybe not everyone eats paper, that might just be me. Alright, so now you see we've lost all 3 points. The one on the left, I believe my ally is getting back. I just typed gonna take it. He probably asked me why are these other 2 points no longer in our control, and the answer to that is I can't keep the pressure up, really. I'm not putting enough infantry onto the field, and I'm not pushing the Americans far enough back. I'm doing an okay job. My AT gun took out that Chaffee you saw, and I am pushing forward, but it's not enough just to kill enemy units. You have to push them off and take their positions and secure some ground so that you have some breathing room to develop your own tactics instead of having to react to what's going on. But now you see my allies moving some submachine guns into the middle. I'm moving some riflemen into the middle. Looks like we're taking that point, so that's some good pressure. I did lose my light tank on the right, though, probably to one of their tanks. I wasn't looking. Might have been a Stuart or something. But yeah, now we have the left back, and it looks like we got the middle back. It might be hard to see with the compression, but we both our team and the opponent's team have about 400 points out of 1,000. And of course, the points will tick up as long as you own the majority of the flags on the map. And I said they are taking mid again, but I was incorrect about that. We have mid, and since we have the majority of the points, we have the ticky up thing. And so now I'm looking at my AT gun options. Japanese really only have one. I pretty much always buy the more expensive AT gun, like the PAC 43 versus the PAC 38 or whatever, or the M5 versus the M3, or the ZIS2 versus the ZIS1. The lighter AT guns, they're really just field guns, really, because they can knock out light vehicles. They really don't have a lot of trouble knocking out light vehicles. Pretty much any AT gun's gonna make mincemeat of a light vehicle. Maybe something like a Puma or something will stand up, but most light vehicles can boom any AT gun. You're fine. But for taking out tanks, the light AT guns, the lowest AT gun, they're really just going to knock a tread off a lot of the time. I actually can't really talk completely expertly-ish about this because I don't even buy them. I always buy the heavier AT gun because I want to own the tank. I want to be able to have at least a chance of punching through the front armor and be almost assured of punching through the side or the rear. And what the light AT guns are good for is if you're using your AT gun as a field gun to fire on infantry or fire on entrenched positions, like you want to level some buildings or you want to take out some fortifications or something. A light AT gun is very good at that. It reloads much faster than a medium AT gun. The shells are certainly powerful enough, especially HE. That is my ally wasting another Type 92, but it does manage to blow the crap out of people crewing that priest. That priest is it's an artillery piece. It's a howitzer piece, and it's open topped and it's got a 50 cal machine gun on top, and it's just a crazy vehicle. You really want to knock that out. If you ever see your opponent has one of those, and especially if they're driving it too close to the front, line up some sort of AT, drive in a tank or drive in a light vehicle, and kill that, because those are very expensive. But they have a 25-pounder howitzer on it, so that's a very, very powerful field gun. But be careful when you send in a light vehicle to kill that, because it has a 50 caliber machine gun on top, and that is just it's such a powerful machine gun. It can kill light vehicles. It seems overpowered sometimes. I just don't have Chaffee. See, like if that was a light AT gun I probably wouldn't have owned that Chaffee. Probably would have bounced off a bunch, but nope, that Chaffee's dead. So yeah, but a light AT gun will destroyed its infantry. Sometimes you might see like your AT gun, you switch back to it and it's got HE shells loaded, and you're like, why did you load high explosive shells? I want to kill a tank with you. And they did that because they wanted to shoot at infantry, and AT guns can destroy infantry, especially against people who are bad and who clump up their infantry in groups of like 6 or groups of 3 or even groups of 2. One shell will just boom, blow them all apart, and that is incredibly satisfying to get your AT gun to blow infantry apart. So if your opponent's being bad like that, or if they're shacked up in buildings, they have a town that you really honestly don't want to move into, you can buy a light field gun and just shell the town. But I typically use AT guns mostly for anti-tank, and if I want to shell a town or something or fortifications, I'll buy a mortar, which I also bought. Japanese get a truck mortar. You can buy a mortar that comes on a truck, and that is just the most ridiculous thing in the entire world. You can drive a truck around with a mortar, and it is just, well, I'm telling you, it's the most ridiculous thing in the entire world. But that's incredibly expensive, and it's not a better mortar than the normal mortar. So I, of course, buy the normal mortar and make my people walk. And there you saw it. My AT gun had swapped to HE rounds. I'm changing it to AP and hoping I can line up a shot on this tank, but the tank is too far away. The tank owned my mortar, by the way. I thought my mortar was safe behind that building, but apparently the angle I put it at was not sufficient to hide it. But yeah, at this point we're pretty much owning. My ally's got his TychoCelchuuu. That's about the heaviest thing. TychoCelchuuu looks goofy. Yes, that's a goofy looking thing. That's about the heaviest thing the Japanese get, and he's just driven it out into no man's land, lost a tread, and he's waiting for it to end. But speaking of ending, we have 700 points in all 3 flags, so they could of course come back from this, and in fact it wouldn't be very difficult for them to come back to this if they were playing much better than us, but at this point it is looking bad for them, and they're going to have to seize the initiative and start winning if they want to win, whereas we just have to sit back and hope that we do not do anything brutally wrong, which, not too dong did I just type? I don't know what I just typed. This was a while ago. I recorded this like a week ago or something. I don't know. So now I'm repairing that light tank that either I or my ally lost like quite a while ago, and I'm doing some intel, some scouting, and trying to determine my chicken level. A very important thing in Men of War is to determine how many chickens you have at your disposal. Yeah, try and secure the chickens if possible. Some maps won't have any chickens. Some maps, the distribution of chickens is completely unbalanced. I don't know what Digital Mindsoft was thinking, but a lot of their maps are not very balanced in terms of where the chickens spawn. This map's pretty good for us. If you start on this side of the map, you're closer to chickens. And the important thing about the chickens is that you can pick them up with any of your infantry. You just move them to your inventory, and then you'll have a chicken ready, like on one of your dudes or whatever. And the great thing about that is you can throw chickens at people. Throwing a chicken at someone you won't automatically win, but let's just say it's a very good strategy. I have won quite a few games in which chickens thrown at people were involved, although I'm not going to say the chickens were the only reason we won. I'm going to go ahead and say, had I not thrown the chicken, we could have possibly lost in some alternate. Hey, look at the Sherman that my ally repaired. So this is the reason not to be cavalier with your tanks. I know the Sherman isn't the heaviest thing in the entire world, but certainly when you're United States versus Japan, you're not going to see anything much heavier than the Sherman. And if the Japanese get their hands on the Sherman, well, that is just not a good thing for the Americans, because it's kind of an open question where the Japanese learned to operate the Sherman, but wherever they did that, they figured it out, and now the Americans are pretty much screwed. And speaking of screwed, the game is over. So I hope you enjoyed the Shoutcast. More will come later. Goodbye.